Hello everybody, my name is Allison Marquez and my chosen topic of today is ensuring students understand instructions from the book Inclusion Strategies in Secondary Classrooms, Chapter 4. So let's get into it. So when we start talking about ensuring that our students understand instructions, I am referring to the students with ELN that may struggle to find the ability to follow instructions due to various disabilities that just put like a roadblock during instructions, and then they are thus unable to perform well on their academic courses. And honestly, most of the time we as instructors may be delivering unclear instructions towards our students. We ourselves can understand whatever we're going to teach as for the upcoming topics or upcoming lessons, but that doesn't mean that our students already understand what we are delivering out for instructions. So throughout this presentation, I hope to present strategies that may be helpful to our students in order to help them understand and follow clear instructions from instructors by approaching new ways for ourselves so that we can improve our own instructions. So the first strategy that we are going to dive into first is the most important one, which is gaining students' full attention. So whenever we are ready to have students start on their assignments and we want to start on directions, we need to make sure that our students have their full attention on us when we're giving them instructions. Many of our students will easily follow these instructions, but there will be students, especially those with the ELN, who have disabilities where they find difficulty to maintain their attention on us. And this includes examples such as trying to maintain attention over long periods of time, or trying to shift their attention when they're shifting in the instructions. And there are some strategies that can help our students with or without ELN on shifting their complete attention onto us by using two systems, which is the 2Q system and the instruction cue. The first one is the 2Q system, which helps signal students to become quiet and direct their attention onto us, like using like hand signals to like raise their hand up. And this causes, whenever a student quiets down and they stare at the instructor, other fellow peers tend to follow along with the students, and now everybody is basically very attentive and patiently waiting for the instructor to start on directions. The second one is one that we commonly see now in the education system, and it's the instruction cue, where instructors basically use their hands to point towards their eyes, their ears, and their chests. And some examples that we probably commonly heard is all eyes on me, hands, ears, and eyes on me. The second strategy is providing written and oral instructions. Well, what exactly is the difference between both? Well, written instructions are instructions that can be read through words and pictures, whereas oral instructions is giving instructions verbally without visual representation. Many of our future students may be good at both visual and auditory perception in our classes, yet there will be students who are just better at visual perception, and there may be some students who are better in auditory perceptions, and in those two categories they both lack in the other department. And these perceptions alone have their own initial advantages, especially with the oral directions and students being able to have their full attention on the instructor, but the written directions had a more advantage over time. So providing both oral and written instructions at the same time to our ELN students and students without ELN allow them to proceed improvement in our students' understanding of both written and oral instructions, retaining information effectively and efficiently, and they have zero confusion if both strategies are presented clearly. And as a person who wants to teach art in the future, I feel like pairing both instructions together can help students visualize how to follow the directions given by the instructor, and then the instructor can like demonstrate it or read out loud the steps on how to complete certain pieces of art by a step-by-step procedure. The third strategy is repeating instructions. Some instructors believe that repeating instructions indicates that students aren't following along with directions, are not motivated to pay attention, or is completely the student's fault for not following basic instructions. However, on the contrary, repeating instructions help boost memory retention and increase confidence in performance within assignments. Aside from repeating yourself over and over again in like a messy or loud classroom setting, repeating the instructions to students is not a bad skill or trait, it's an accommodation that you can make to all of your students. So instructors may repeat themselves more than 3 times to ensure that our students are able to decode the messages at different time, or for future lessons they may even decode the message in their first try. It allows instructions to be repeated more than once and not delivered as a one-time step instruction. There won't be as much confusion and frustration with our students. There will be an increased accommodation for those who are listening, who need to listen to these instructions, and our students are able to begin to enhance through multiple exposures. The fourth strategy is including chunk instructions. Chunk instructions refers to breaking down a large lesson or assignment into smaller and sequence-based segment instructions for students to follow. As instructors, giving out larger pieces of information to students with ELN to follow may cause them to find these pieces very overwhelming or too much to process at a time. And as mentioned above in one of my strategies that I previously mentioned in my previous slides, students have various disabilities that don't allow them to fully follow their attention, or at least like fully follow whatever we're going to instruct them on, have their attention on us. And some of these also include how well they will be able to perform on the assignments when they are given instructions. So by reducing activity into smaller tasks or information, students can start remembering short strings of information piece by piece at a time and in their own time as well. It also makes it more manageable for students to follow and complete the instructions and move it on to with their assignments. The last strategy is using solicit, tellbacks, and show me's. Previously as students, I believe we were all asked at some point, do you understand what's going on? Are you having any issues with this? Do you know what to do with this certain part? What exactly, or do you need help on, etc.? And sometimes we may not know how to answer those questions because we ourselves were lost and confused. Well, even to this day, many of our students may not know what to do, especially when they're being asked, do you understand what to do? Even after being cleared given instructions, they may still feel lost after you ask them and are probably embarrassed to ask for help, especially if you are a type of teacher who is very adamant that students should be able to understand instructions when they're being given to them and there is no second chances. Well, that's not how it is for them, and you have to be more lenient with that. The tell me strategy allows students to tell other students and the instructor what they are supposed to do as a class by demonstrating it to them, or through auditory perception. And meanwhile, the show me strategy allows students to actually demonstrate and show the class what they are supposed to do or wherever they're at in their topics. As instructors, we can also pick various other students who are learning and following instructions at their own pace to demonstrate to the class what they've retained so far. And as mentioned beforehand, this helps with visual perception and auditory perception. But that will be it for my presentation. It was my pleasure to talk about ensuring that students understand direction and present strategies that may help students or future teachers to include in their teachings. Now, I feel like as a student who wants to teach art in the future, I will definitely, I took some joy into this because I do think that art is very visual perception and auditory perception with our students, and I want to make sure that I, am teaching them well and I'm teaching them good and that they are following along with my instructions. And based on my reading so far, I want to sometimes do one-on-ones just in case, just to make sure that they themselves are learning wherever they're at with their artworks. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Bye bye.